so high I'm hypnotized. What's up is down, what's left is right. Chasing stars and holding you. I can't see the end, but we'll see it through.
All right, clicking the live button now.
All right. Good evening, everybody. Excuse me as I get my feces consolidated into one sock here, as one of my old friends used to say. Welcome to another FPVFC Town Hall. With us tonight, we got Dave, Alex, Dan, and myself. Got a little bit of fun. Well, I mean, some news, I guess. Some of it could be fun. Some of it could be a little interesting, I guess. But we're going to go ahead and start off with the new Blue UAS list. And let me get my link going here. So hopefully this is popping up. So February 14th, after 3 days of flight demonstrations at the Blue UAS Challenge at Marine Corps Air Ground Combat Center, 29 Palms, service evaluators selected 23 platforms and 14 unique components and capabilities for National Defense Authorization Act verification and cybersecurity review. Over the coming months, as these selections complete the verification process, the Blue UAS list and Blue UAS framework will expand with new additions. This challenge was the first of what was intended to be an annual competitive event for updating capabilities on the Blue list and framework. In direct response to operator feedback, first-person view, Group 3, and tethered platforms were selected for potential addition to the Blue UAS list in response to emerging problem sets for end users. The addition of these new capabilities will provide Department of Defense warfighters the ability to acquire these capabilities multiple years in advance of the current DoD program of record timeframe. As DIU completes the NDAA and cybersecurity verification process, updates to the Blue UAS list and Blue UAS frameworks will be published. If you don't know, the Blue UAS list is a list of DoD-approved drones, providing options for the evolving mission needs of government users. And the Blue UAS framework is a list of interoperable NDAA compliant UAS components and software that provide options for government and industry partners. So NDAA, if you're not familiar, that's a term that's becoming more common when it comes to drones, is the National Defense Authorization Act. And basically means that it can not be manufactured in an adversary country. So countries currently on that list would include China, Russia,
Iran, Pakistan, North Korea.
Yeah, thank you. Some of the new platforms selected for verification for the Blue UAS list are the Hoverfly Spectre, the Neros Archer, the Modal AI Stalker, and so on. You can kind of see some of those there. And then we've got new components. We've got GPS receivers. Looks like a new Pierce Aerospace remote ID beacon. Some equipment from Arc Electronics, their flight controller. So some of these are becoming bigger and bigger names when it comes to the NDAA list here. So
I think the unusual machines flight controller made the list.
No, is it the flight controller? I thought it was the FPV camera. So one of the ones I wanted to highlight here was actually, I'm going to switch over to their website, is the Neros Archer. It's the first FPV drone certified for Blue UAS. And for those who don't know, Neros Tech its CEO is Soren Monroe Anderson, who flew in DRL, and he was correct me if I'm wrong, Alex, a multi-GP champion in 2020. But
Soren,
yeah.
yeah, I don't remember if that was him in 2020. It might have been.
So I pulled his
But
LinkedIn. It was on there.
He's
So
like, yeah, he's one of the best in the world, though.
yeah, one of the top pilots in the world, definitely. So he built this company. I'm on his Twitter right now, and in response to being selected, he says, "Archer is paired with crossbow, our tactical ground station that enables enhanced jamming resistance and standoff between pilot and emitter. Crucially, Archer is an order of magnitude less expensive than other small drones on the Blue UAS list." And reading through comments on here on X or Twitter or whatever you choose to call it, top speed of 90 miles per hour, and has a lifting capability, or sorry, it's a high performance long range FPV drone capable of carrying a 2 kilogram, 4.5 pound payload over 20 kilometers. Components that make up Archer are engineered by Neros, refined by rigorous battlefield testing, and manufactured in the United States. So, thought that was kind of interesting. So,
And
and
the Blue UAS then it's a list. It's managed by, I always get DIU. Is that the correct abbreviation? And it's the U.S. Whereas NDAA compliance is self-declaration. So getting on the Blue, and correct me where I'm wrong there, Josh and Alex, but getting on the Blue UAS list is a big deal. That helps you
yes,
with procurement a lot. And being NDAA compliant is a good first step. You declare it. You have to make sure
prove it.
that you're going to be able to prove it. And then this is a good step.
Mhm.
And to me, why is this important to us in the hobby industry? And to me, this is very important from a perspective of if the U.S. military is interested in this type of technology, and we have access to a lot of it or a subset of it, where we can be better pilots and demonstrate that we're a pool of resources of pilots. This is good for us. It's good for regulations because we can push the angle of, look, we need to have this from a national security basis. We need to have this in education. We need to have this available for recreation so that we can maximize innovation in this country. And it's not BS. I mean, it might sound like a line, but it's a good way to encourage young people to look into technology and get involved with things like this. So this is a positive, and I understand that there are some people that are very much opposed to the militarization of drones, but this is good for us from a pure STEM and business perspective.
Absolutely. And I think, not even as pilots, but as, future engineers, right? I mean, people who are designing and building this stuff. And this is the kind of tech that, is looking to compete with, the giants like DJI, right? And if it's coming in at, I don't know what the price point is, they don't list it. But, going by what Soren is saying, that it's orders of magnitude cheaper than existing ones. I mean, that's a foot in the door, right? To getting this type of capability out there and being manufactured on U.S. soil, right? And that's the important point that we're missing, I think, in a lot of the U.S. based drone industry, right? So on that thread, I'm going to jump over to here, and this is a Substack article. It's entitled "Hey 47, can we get a executive order to remove all the FAA U.S. drone production regulations?" And I'm not going to go through his opening here, but he makes some interesting points that I kind of want to share. This is by Torrance Stevens. But he said, "It's my purview that FAA regulations place the U.S. military at a significant global disadvantage concerning the production of drones of any sort, let alone drones of military utility compared to the CCP. For this reason, the reason for this is due to useless regulations by bureaucrats of the FAA." FAA regulations play a significant role in shaping the development and production of drones in the U.S., albeit instituted under the false narrative of safety and security. These regulations impede drone production and innovation in the U.S. Stringent certification requirements implemented by the FAA require drones used for commercial purposes to comply with strict airworthiness certification standards similar to traditional aircraft. However, obtaining FAA certification is a lengthy and expensive process, which discourages manufacturers from rapidly developing and deploying new drone models. There are also restrictions on beyond visual line of sight operations. This means that most drones must remain within the pilot's line of sight, making this one of the biggest limitations of the development and innovation of U.S. drone technology. This restriction makes it difficult for companies to develop and produce drones for long-range delivery, infrastructure inspection, and other applications that require autonomous flight. Other useless laws and regulations that limit consumers and the military from increasing drone manufacturing in America pertain to data and security. The U.S. government, based on artificial and sensationalized concerns over data security, has banned certain foreign-made drones from government contracts. While this protects national security, it also creates regulatory hurdles for American companies trying to compete, as they must meet strict cybersecurity and data protection standards. So if U.S. companies must apply for special waivers or authorizations, it slows down testing and commercial deployment. He goes on to talk about slow rulemaking processes, which we are all well aware of. We're still waiting on a BV loss in PRM.
NPRM.
And the cost of certifications and time and all that stuff makes U.S. drones inherently, I think, more expensive, if that makes sense. So it's just an interesting thought process he has, and I mean, to be honest, I don't find fault with it.
Yeah, my reaction is I would agree with what he's saying as it relates to type 135. And Alex, help me on the other cert. There's cargo and personnel. One is 135 and the other is 120 or 121.
I know the 135. I don't remember the other one.
But it's cargo and personnel carrying, and the type certification for those type of aircraft, drones included, is awful, and it has absolutely caused problems in the U.S. drone industry. To wit, Google flew 440,000 delivery drone missions, not in the United States, but in Australia. Amazon has struggled for 6 or 7 years to get a type cert approval, and poured a lot of money in it. Type cert is a key. I agree with what this gentleman is saying around that point. With respect to Part 107 and recreational 44809, no type cert is required. Correct. Now, as we see, as we're all hoping that maybe next month we see the beyond visual line of sight notice for public rulemaking, and hopefully we'll see an introduction of a Part 108. I fully anticipate that will be a type cert aircraft, meaning that it will have to be certified by the FAA. The pilot will have to undergo a medical, a test, and there'll probably be a practical exam to demonstrate that you're capable of flying the aircraft. That to me is legit when you're flying 150 miles away from the aircraft. It's not legit when you're still flying visual line of sight. So I agree with him on a couple of points, not so much on
type certification,
on type cert, and also the data security. We're lax on data security. We don't have requirements for encryption of the command and control data stream. Be easy enough to make that happen. And so the video stream or the data stream out to our aircraft is not required to be encrypted. It's usually not encrypted, and that's an issue. So
remote ID is not encrypted either.
Exactly.
Yeah, correct.
Exactly.
Let's see. Up next, I thought this was kind of relevant to roll in. This is from Drone XL. So North Dakota Senate rejects Chinese drone replacement while advancing BV loss network. So the North Dakota Senate has voted to remove a $15 million drone replacement program from House Bill 1038 while preserving $11 million for expanding the state's beyond visual line of sight drone network. Senator Kyle Davidson led the successful motion to strip the Chinese drone replacement provision, citing significant cost differences between current equipment and American-made alternatives. The Senate voted 29-15 to remove the replacement program, which would have affected approximately 300 drones across 14 state agencies and universities. Cost analysis presented in Senate testimony revealed that the DJI Matrice 30 drones currently used by state agencies cost around $7,500, while NDAA compliant alternatives from American manufacturers such as Teal and Skydio range between $20,000 and $50,000.
So is this saying they're requiring an expansion of their drone program, but they're not going to allow them to use DJI, and they're not going to pay to replace the DJI with something American made?
So it seems like it. So the preserved $11 million allocation supports North Dakota's participation in the FAA Radar Data Pathfinder program. Funding will help expand the state's Vantis network coverage from 3,000 to 56,000 square miles by integrating federal radar data. So, yeah, it's pretty interesting how we're negating one thing, and then unless they're saying they don't have to replace them at this time, it's kind of hard to tell there.
Alex, is North Dakota one of the universities there where they hosted the collegiate races for several years?
Yes, I believe North Dakota's hosted it twice. They also have the Northern Plains UAS test site there.
Yeah, it's listed in the
Yeah.
article.
So
There you
they're one of the 7 UAS test sites in the country.
Then
I
that's
think it's
that's
7
Pathfinder.
test
That's
sites.
Pathfinder, right?
I don't remember.
Okay, so
which program, but
so I'd draw I'd connect the dots here and assert that you've got so North Dakota.
Oh, it says right here, state agencies will continue operating their existing drone fleets
There you
while
go.
implementing security protocols.
So
there you
North
go.
Dakota, not a high population, and their university system participates in drone racing and is a very active engineering school. That's great.
Yeah.
Then you've got the legislator listening to students, professors. That's great, and so this is this is how it's supposed to work, and that's to me this is a good thing. It's a little kooky, but hey, it's great. It's great that they're taking this direction instead of the
Banning
silliness,
and not replacing.
right?
Yeah.
The silliness that we've seen in what is it now? Florida, Tennessee, Nevada, and Oregon, I believe. Yeah.
All right. Good
Quick-
times. I was kind of
Quick,
go
before
ahead.
before you go on to the next topic, there was a comment
Yeah.
in the YouTube live chat asking if anybody knows what's happened with the drone sightings in New Jersey, and are they still happening? I think what we last heard was basically they were all confirmed to either be manned aircraft or authorized drones to be flying in the area.
Yes. That is the last update that I know of. And from what I know, I did pull an article. Well, I didn't pull it. I saw an article, but it says they're still there. I mean, people are still seeing them, but
Well,
Still seeing
there are still
airplanes.
planes in the sky, so
That's
yes.
right.
Yeah.
The reason I chuckle, yeah. So that was our understanding, and then about a week or so later, the White House press secretary came out and said, "Yes, this is what's going on in New Jersey." So, I don't know if that helps or hurts the veracity of the claims, but there it is.
All right. This is kind of interesting. So Congress introduces bipartisan legislation to expand drone funding for law enforcement. So I chuckle on the inside every time I see a new bill's name. I think they pick a word and then they pick words to make up that word. So the Drone Act of 2025 seeks to enhance public safety with federal support. So Representatives Lou Correa and Troy Nils have introduced a bipartisan directing resources for officers navigating emergencies Act of 2025. This bill would allow law enforcement agencies to use federal grants to purchase and operate drones, expanding access to technology that enhances public safety and emergency response
If
capabilities.
there was such a thing as federal grants anymore.
Well, I think they're on pause right now, right? They're not gone. But Drone Act of 2020 the Drone Act of 2025 proposes changes to existing federal grant programs. Currently, drones are not an eligible expense under the Edward Byrne Memorial Justice Assistance Grant and Community-Oriented Policing Services grants. The new legislation would amend these programs, ensuring that first responders can use federal funds to invest in drone technology. Korea emphasized the importance of providing law enforcement with modern tools. Drones continue to play an ever-growing role in protecting our communities and responding to emergencies in a safer manner. By continuing to unlock their potential, we can save taxpayers millions and make our streets safer. It's a win-win.
So this is the same. This is a. Let's see. It's a different Congress. So this is the 119. So the 118th Congress voted in the NDAA, which has a dead man switch in it, which will ban DJI, Autel, and all licensees thereof, and other Chinese, other drones from covered nations. So that will create that will devastate public safety departments across the country. So then, instead of fixing that legislation, I guess the idea is let's see if we can pass something that will help fund or provide a grant to public safety. Better late than never, I guess.
Yeah. Cart before the horse, as always.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. In the meantime, we'll have we're risking people's lives by grounding fleets for public safety.
All right. Next up, home state of Arizona here for me. Arizona bill would give law enforcement power to target drones at the U.S.-Mexico border. So HB,
so no more diving that the wall, Josh.
the fence. Yeah, I know, right? HB 2733, introduced at the Arizona State Legislature, aims to give law enforcement officers in the state more powers to deal with drones at the border. If passed, the bill would give officers immunity from liability for damages caused by the interception of a drone under certain circumstances. Arizona Attorney General Chris Mays supports the bill.
This, of course, is in violation of federal preemption of the FAA, where no one except a federal someone
authorized federal agency,
associated with the FAA or a federal agent authorized by the FAA has the authority to take a drone out of the sky. So,
yeah. So let's see. Bill would allow a public entity or public employee to not be liable to a drone operator for any damages caused by an officer intercepting, capturing, disabling, shooting, destroying, or otherwise rendering inoperative an unmanned aircraft within 30 miles of Arizona's border with Mexico.
30 miles. Wow.
Let's see. Arizona Attorney General Chris Mays is among those who support the bill. She says that the drones can travel up to 75 miles into Arizona, flooding the state with drugs like fentanyl. So, yeah.
I can only think of like a dozen different ways to exploit that law, but okay.
Really? And they only all they want to do is avoid liability. So so you can still be charged with a felony for shooting down an aircraft, but there's no liability on the property.
So if it's your drone, they're not responsible for it, basically.
Got it.
So, yeah, good times.
Okay. Hopefully the Arizona legislature is doing other good things with their time.
Anyway, so hundreds of FAA employees drawn into mass layoffs. So this has definitely been a topic in the news lately. Mass layoffs at the U.S. government have reached the FAA, with hundreds of probationary agency workers receiving emails beginning Friday evening that notified them of their termination. This included members of the Professional Aviation Safety Specialists and the National Air Traffic Controllers Association. We are troubled and disappointed by the administration's decision to fire FAA probationary employee past represents without cause nor based on performance or conduct, said past National President David Spiro in a statement released over the weekend. Several hundred employees have been impacted, with messages being sent from an executive order Microsoft email address, not an official .gov email address. Messages began arriving after 7 p.m. on February 14th and continued late into the night. PASS, which represents workers who inspect and maintain the National's air traffic control systems, believes that up to 300 members may be affected. Anecdotally, this includes a range of positions that include maintenance mechanics, aeronautical information specialists, environmental protection specialists, aviation safety assistants, and management and program assistants. Let's see. NATCA President Nick Daniels reported that numerous NATCA Region X employees Region 10 employees were affected. Region 10 members are not controllers, however. They are involved in an array of tasks at the agency, including key safety-related roles such as aircraft certification specialists, airport division employees, automation support specialists, and aviation technical systems specialists, among others. So, when you read National Air Traffic Controllers Association, that doesn't mean that they fired a bunch of air traffic controllers. We will analyze the effects of these terminations on aviation safety in the national airspace system. It's a sad day for those who chose to serve in aviation safety and public service only to have their career cut short. So I did a quick search just as a FYI for myself. How many employees are at the FAA? Any guesses?
Should be about approximately 45,000.
Yeah, so 45,000 employees. And that's across the U.S., right? That's going to be your air traffic controllers, your mechanics, your safety inspectors, so on and so forth, right? Not just people at this building right here, which we're familiar with.
Yeah, the UAS integration office is, I believe, just over 100.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I haven't seen any direct mentions of the UAS integration office, but I assume they're probably not immune from this. So
I agree. It would sound like, because they're not in a direct line safety critical set of jobs.
So if we
But of
thought
course,
if we thought they were slow at doing things in the past, it's not going to get any faster anytime soon.
Yeah, and the memos that the employees receive tell them that they're being fired for poor performance, and so the tactics that are being used against these employees are really loathsome. And we complain, and I whine all the time about the FAA. This is no way to treat people who have who are working day in day out for the FAA. This is not good, and it's of course hitting other agencies. And so if you've got, we know that there are a shortage of air traffic controllers, and so any job offers that they had in the pipeline had to be rescinded. So this is the numbers are still in the 300 to 700 magnitude. The variety of reports we've been hearing about. And as I mentioned, I promised to the team here to not go on too much of a rant on politics. We'll try to keep politics out of it, but we are, and personally, absolutely keeping up to date on what's going on in Washington with all of the variety of news. And there's a lot of it in different sources.
And I think this article is just talking about people in one part of the FAA were 300. Yeah. So I think other parts of the FAA are not counted in that number.
So it does say here, U.S. Department of Transportation spokesman on Monday told AIN when asked about the layoffs, the FAA continues to hire and onboard air traffic controllers and safety professionals, including mechanics and others who support them. The agency has retained employees who perform safety critical functions. So,
yeah, the other part that really seems to bother me is when they use the word probationary employees, it's
Mhm.
a lot of people will think, oh, that's because they were under review or they had bad
No, they're just new.
performance. It just mean and it doesn't necessarily mean they're just new. It could mean
Right.
you've been promoted to your
Transferred.
position or transferred in
Yeah.
the past year,
That's
and
right.
we did that because you were a really good person, and
Mhm.
you
That's
now
right.
have a high, better job with more responsibility, but you were within the past year or two, and then you're still on
You're
probation, and then
still
you
in
get
a
fired.
probationary period. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Well said, Dan. Yeah.
So it does say here, Pass said that it was advised by council that only new positions were affected. So,
Yeah.
I don't know. I
So with
mean,
news like this, anybody here want to apply to work at the FAA?
I wasn't in danger of that to begin with, but
Right. But I mean, we've worked with some really amazing people in the rule. When you get to the people who are writing the rules, these are bright people with decades of
Mhm.
experience in aviation, and it's like, oh,
Well,
this is a great demotivator.
yeah, haven't we talked for years about how drone and STEM get people into aviation and get people into, say, the FAA and into the safety and everything related to that? So
Exactly. Yeah, this doesn't help.
Yeah. All right, and last on the FAA news list, we got Wired here. SpaceX engineers, or let's see, these are the SpaceX engineers already working inside the FAA. And I mean, depending on your outlook on this, it can be one thing with another, or it could be bad, it could be good. It just depends on what happens, right? So engineers who work for Elon Musk's SpaceX have been brought on as senior advisors to the acting administrator of the FAA.
I'm sure there's
Sources
no
tell
conflict
Wire.
of interest there whatsoever.
Yeah, I mean that might be a little. You're not wrong there.
No way. How could that be?
On Sunday, Sean Duffy, Secretary of the Department of Transportation, which oversees the FAA, announced in a post on X that SpaceX engineers would be visiting the Air Traffic Control System Command Center in Virginia to take what he positioned as a tour. The safety of air travel is a nonpartisan matter, Musk replied. SpaceX engineers will help make air travel safer. By the time these posts were made, though, according to sources who were granted anonymity because of their fear of retaliation, SpaceX engineers are already being onboarded at the agency under Schedule A, a special authority that allows government managers to hire persons with disabilities without requiring them to compete for the job, which sounds sketchy, according to the Office of Personnel Management. These new hires come after the terminations of hundreds of FAA probationary employees and the most deadly month of U.S. aviation disasters in more than a decade. According to a source with knowledge of the situation, none of the SpaceX engineers were fully vetted by their start date, unlike the very young technologists associated with Musk's so-called Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE, who have been given access to critical systems at agencies ranging from OPM and Treasury Department to NOAA in recent weeks. The engineers identified by Wire, Ted Malaska, Thomas Kiernan, Sam Schmiel, and Brady Glantz do appear to have experience relevant to the FAA. So they go through and break down each one of these folks. But I want to kind of come down here. Let's see. On Wednesday, FAA Acting Administrator Chris Rocheleau wrote in an email to FAA staff, viewed by Wired, that DOGE and the teams of special government employees deployed in federal agencies were top of mind, before noting that the agency had recently welcomed a team of special government employees who had already toured some FAA facilities. He said, "We are asking for their help to engineer solutions while we keep the airspace open and safe." In a Department of Transportation all-hands meeting last week, Duffy responded to questions about DOGE's role in national airspace matters, and without explicitly mentioning the new employees, suggested help was needed on reforming the Notice to Airman mission alerts, a critical system that distributes real-time data and warnings to pilots, but which has had significant outages, one as recently as this much. or this month. If I can get ideas from really smart engineers on how we can fix it, I'm going to take those ideas, he said, according to the recording of the meeting reviewed by Wired. Great engineers might also work on airspace issues, he said.
Yeah, so I hope folks are looking at this article and listening to this. This doesn't add up. They want help fixing the NOTAM system. So you bring in a number of disparate, loose skills. One of whom is a Hadoop specialist who's a kid, and that's going to help your NOTAM system. So the and also reports about they're also saying, well, we want to work on our air traffic control system too. So we need to stay close to this because, as they would say down south, this dog don't hunt. I'm not buying this story.
So when was it recently? And correct me if I'm wrong. The entire air traffic control system went down, or
No, the whole NOTAM system was.
was it
yeah,
NOTAM that went down?
It was NOTAMs that went down, and they grounded travel for I think it was 2 days. It was a catastrophe.
Yeah.
But and we all know if you try to decipher a NOTAM, not so easy. And the NOTAM system is not good yet. You don't fix it by coming in and laying off 300 to 700 people in a disparate area, evaluating other people to be laid off. This is not efficiency. This doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I'm sure none of this has anything to do with the fact that the FAA was investigating SpaceX for various things that they were doing
that's
wrong.
down here below here. So
right, many investigations on SpaceX.
So FAA is frequently tangled with Musk's SpaceX as the rocket company and others fight to operate their own interest in crowded American airspace. In January, the FAA temporarily grounded SpaceX's program after one of its Starship rockets broke apart mid-flight, reportedly damaging public property on Turks and Caicos in the Caribbean. The FAA diverted dozens of commercial airline flights following the explosion and announced an investigation into the incident, which is ongoing and being led by SpaceX.
That one did lead to some really pretty videos, though.
Musk, however, characterized the failure as
saw some of those, like from a passenger airplane out the window, of seeing the debris like burning
re-enter the atmosphere.
Yeah, it was pretty, but you wouldn't want to be there.
Yeah,
no, I wouldn't. Definitely wouldn't.
Best viewed from a distance.
Yeah. So obviously,
objects in the mirror are closer than they appear.
Right. Let's see. FAA proposed $633,000 in fines following two 2023 incidents in which SpaceX allegedly did not follow its license requirement, violating regulations. So, anyway, good times all around. That's all I have for this evening.
Yeah, and we've had, as I've mentioned in the past, we've had the privilege of working with a number of NACTA people, and so the air traffic, the part of NACTA that is air traffic control, these folks are absolute pros, and they are a joy to work with, and they're serious, and they want nothing to do with drones because they don't get paid for that. And and when you think about it, it's like, oh, geez, that's an attitude. But it's like, no, it makes sense. They're not trained. They're not paid. It's not in their remit. And they're busy enough with airliners and control towers. So, okay, I've come around. And NACTA group is a heck of an organization. And that is really quite the responsibility. And it takes, I think I heard it takes 3 years for someone to be fully trained as an air traffic controller.
But what's to stop the Air Traffic Controllers Association to create a division just, situated around UAS? I mean,
they absolutely could if that was the direction of NASA and the FAA. But the unmanned traffic management is separate and is not interested in employing more air traffic controllers. They want it farmed out to industry, privatized, and they want it to be automated. And so think about the handoffs, when an airliner flies, out of one zone into another zone, and it's being picked up from one air traffic controller to another. Well, with drones, that's all going to be done automatically and computer to computer handshake. Not yet, but that's some of the issues. Those are some of the issues. Oh,
Yeah.
and they haven't thought about encryption.
So yeah, the other one I wanted to bring up, and it was one of the mentions on the Blue UAS framework for one of the components. I believe it was Pierce Aerospace. I did read a quick article that I thought was interesting. Their remote ID unit that they got added, and I might be wrong because I quickly read the article and deemed it not super engaging, but not only broadcasts the data but stores the data on the unit, so it can then be picked up by authorities, if that makes sense, and data analyzed. Like that's taking it to the next level for sure.
The next step is network remote ID, and I think many of us are not interested in having remote ID data in our current broadcast
Stored.
modules or standard remote ID stored, because
Yeah.
that just adds to the the warehouse of evidence that could be used against us, and that the fact that we're broadcasting it into the ether and that it has possibly a small range, that's just fine.
Yep. With that. So, all right, Dave, what else you got for us this evening?
We are looking into there's an analogous situation with the shuttering of the websites of HHS, the FDA, and the CDC. Private organizations or private public organizations like the American Medical Association are filling the gap, and that is if you want latest information on what's going on in bird flu, for example, can't find that on a federal website today. So the American Medical Association is filling the gap. So we are looking into, are there ways that the organizations that we are a part of that are not joint with the FAA can be of more help and more value to the UAS or drone community. And that's so one of the groups we're looking into on this topic is the Drone Advisory Council, and that includes Aloft, Moss Photography, Influential Drones, and Pilot Institute, and one other company. It's a counter UAS company whose name it's not. I don't think it's D-Drone, but it's one of the counter UAS companies. So that's the Drone Advisory Council. We've been a founding member of that, and we think that it's very possible that communication could become even more important, as we suspect there will be a suppressed amount of information about things that we need to know as a community, as there are in the health services right now.
And just so you're aware, Dave, the working group that you were on about inclusive language information and stuff,
Yes.
links to those pages are now gone from the FAA's website.
Mm-hmm.
So that group you were part of didn't exist, according to
Right.
history.
Excellent. Yes, part of the DEI, and to me that's a shame, because there are parts of the pronoun usage that I struggle with, but a lot of it was gender neutral language in aviation, and it was picked up not only by and blessed by the UAS Integration Office, but also across the FAA and other agencies. And it was a well thought through set of recommendations on how you can write better that will encourage what we were targeting is make it more accessible for girls to see it and be it. And if they want to get into aviation, they don't feel like they're being left out by the language. And we pointed out research that proved that this is a legitimate situation. So we're in George Orwell, 1984, right now. We are erasing history, as Dan pointed out. So glad we saved that document. We'll have to maybe resuscitate that sometime in the future. It's also like
on some more
Fahrenheit 451.
more positive news relate, I do have one story I did read this past week that I could share.
Absolutely.
It was about NASA testing drones to provide micrometeorology, especially in the cases of aiding in fire response. So the really simplified version of it is, say, the National Weather Service uses balloons. They have these high helium balloons they release like twice a day or something from very fixed points across the country. And as they rise through the atmosphere, they take readings, send that back to the office, and then that calculates forecasts and whatnot. So instead of releasing balloons a couple times a day, they're doing drones, which are much more controllable, and they can do it many times. And then it's like in the case of a large wildfire, you can do it a bunch of different locations around the fire, and use that information to provide more accurate forecasts, say, of winds and what they're going to do and how it's going to affect the fire, that kind of stuff.
That's super cool.
And so they were testing some of that technology recently.
Yeah, I mean, to me, when you think about good, accurate loitering, provides a matrix of data that is much more stable than, okay, now I first have to calculate the variation, the three-dimensional change of where this thing was, and then extrapolate what happened to the data that it's so I have to do a whole mass of calculations just to try to get a model that is right now, where this is data is the model, because we're because of the nice static data location points of the transmission. So this is very cool.
I thought it was interesting that they've got this relatively tall pole on the top of it, and then they have instruments up there, so they can check the wind speed, I assume, without the propellers of having affected it too much, or at least they can
That's cool.
calculate the difference out or something. But yeah.
I mean, were they using free fly drones, or were they using tethered drones, or
The picture just makes it look like a regular, large,
big
drone.
free flying, not tethered.
I mean,
Yeah.
even a tethered one. I mean, you could. I mean, fly that
Still be
indefinitely, right?
great.
I mean,
Yep.
yeah, 100%. That'd be cool. All right. Anything else for us, Dan?
No, I think that's the only interesting news item I had for the week.
All right, Alex. Anything from you, sir?
Anything going on in multi GP?
Not that I can remember right now, but
It's kind of the opposite.
we have the global qualifier track submission contest.
Great.
That is either ending soon or ended. I don't remember which.
So clearly
Alex
you're not
has been
submitting
busy.
Yes, I'm not submitting one.
Otherwise, you'd be tuned into the schedule.
I've had different priorities recently.
Fair.
It's all serious. It's all aviation related.
He's busy growing a beard. That's what he's been focusing on.
It's excellent.
It's trying to stay warm up there. I mean, come on.
It's no fair. It's warmer up there than it is for me down here.
I know it is warmer. It's been warmer here. I think to the 20s today.
Jealous.
Balmy. That's why you're in a t-shirt, right? No reason, no need
I'm
for
inside.
a coat.
I always have the t-shirt on.
That's funny. All right, guys. I think with that, we'll wrap up this evening. So it remains to be interesting. So we'll just keep a watch on what's going on. We'll provide you with the latest, and
if you hear of any direct news, let us know, please, through contact us on our website. And if you have questions, please ask. We are trying to keep it as apolitical as we can. And it's a little hard, but we are watching a lot of news and trying to keep aware of a lot of what's going on, not only in the legislature, but also what's going on across the federal government.
100%. All right, guys. Thank you for your time tonight, and we'll see you again in 2 more weeks. Thank you.
left is right. Chasing stars and holding you. I can't see the end, but we'll see it through. Flying, get on board. We're smiling on top of the world. Dangerous times, don't fly too high. Be sure to keep the ground in sight. Fly forever if you keep it tight. Love the world, but keep the sky on your mind.